Welcome to another edition of the Resilient Living Podcast, a show dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, guys, today's subject matter is from surviving to thriving. Let's just jump right into it. I want to get you guys, when I look at life in general, I see a lot of people who are just getting by. A lot of us are just getting by. It's known fact through analyzing and things like that people, the most average Americans, like 7 out of 10 barely have $1,000 to $3,000 in the bank. They basically have enough money for maybe a month. And this is ridiculous. And we look at our health, the health of our children, the psychological well-being of ourselves, the psychological well-being of our children, those around us, our neighbors, our physical health, our spiritual growth, whatever that means to you, your happiness. What state are we in right now? You have to ask yourself, are we surviving? And if that's great, all right. But if you want to move beyond just getting by to thriving, I think there's a few things that we need to do in our lives. And I kind of want to talk about those today. And I can't think of one bigger one than the percentage of your income to debt ratio. Money, basically, to make that, get the crap out of my mouth. The percentage of income debt ratio, I don't think a lot of people think about that. And this has a lot to do with your spirituality, your happiness, your physical health and stuff like that. Because what are you doing? What are you expending on, right? What is your income coming in? And what is your debt? What is the ratio of those things? Are you able to afford nice and healthy foods? Most people, I think, have a nice house. They want to rent a nice house. They want to have nice things, a nice car, nice clothes. They want to look the part. But are you able to afford those type of things, right? Because when we think about affordability, is maybe you can, but are you just surviving? Are you thriving? You look good. You look the part, you got the car, the wife, the husband, whatever, the house and everything, but are you guys making it? And if you are making it and you have excess money, are you guys actually happy? Are you progressing spiritually? In your friendship and your relationships, right? With yourself first, and then with your spouse, or your friends. Are you busy working so hard and so stressed out, right? This is the debt income ratio, to me, doesn't go just in money. It goes into energy of the self, your happiness, spirituality, all those type of things. But on the subject matter of money, I think a lot of people need to know what we should do. So if you have a mortgage or rent, there's somebody by the name of Dave Ramsey you can listen to where he says 25% of your money should be going towards your mortgage or your rent. Because if you want to move from surviving to thriving, you actually want to retire financially, you need to have something to save. And I think a lot of people, Americans, through analytics, right, and statistics, are some of the worst savers in the world. So if you had a percentage of, say, $1,000, a month, to make even numbers here, let's just say that you spent, 250 of that on rent, right? And then you have the rest of the 750 to actually spend on food, electricity, and things like that. And then do you have anything, the debt to income ratio, do you have anything to put towards savings? Do you have something to build yourself an emergency fund with? I think a lot of people right now are thinking, well, maybe I should buy a house, in this day and age, maybe I should invest in things. Well, before you invest, one of the things that a lot of financial advisors, like good ones, are going to tell you, or some of these millionaires, they have a hedge against stuff. They have a savings, an emergency plan. So the first thing you should do before you purchase anything like a car, make payments, you need to know your income to debt ratio, and you should have an emergency backup. If you get hurt, you break a leg, get hit by a bus, or I don't know, the economy collapses, right? That's what a lot of the real estate investors were saying, that yes, a lot of the tenants weren't paying their rent. But these guys had reserve money to get them through 2021, and that's why their businesses, their homes, they didn't lose their homes to the bank, their apartments, their investments, basically. So we got to start thinking to know your factors here of money, right? Your ratios of what you feel comfortable, and come up with a business plan so that you can move from just financially surviving to actually thriving. And I see a lot of people that are just overextending themselves. I think we've been born into the society where we've had abundance all the time, and they don't know what it is to do without. And I see so many people, the amount of money they make. If you're making $100,000 a year right now, and you live like I did, a simple life, the amount of money you'd be able to save and invest, or just live this way for a few decades, save that money, and then travel for the rest of your life. This can go many, many ways. build yourself up some working capital. Get yourself, say, a Sprinter van, which some people do, but just really deck that thing out. Get one that's really good that you can keep rebuilding the motor for the rest of your life. You've got all the maintenance and the wear and tear on this thing covered, right? The infrastructure of your life, and that gives you time. It gives you time to go travel around, going places that you really want to see. It gives you time, for myself, where I look at my income debt to my income ratio to debt, is that I spend more of my money, which makes sense, on healthy organic food. So people ask, well, how the heck are you able to do smoked tri-tip or ribs and stuff every weekend, have barbecue Saturdays? How are you able to buy organic bananas, papayas, mangoes, and eat all this extravagant good food? Because I decide to lower my living situation so that I can afford to spend more money on my health. I think that my health is more important. If I had $1 million, what good is $1 million if I can't even get up if I'm sick and on pills, medications, and unhappy? I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. So I spend my money more on food and taking time off with my children and doing things than I do actually investing into a home. I'm investing in experiences in life. I guess that's what people are calling the new rich. So it's up to you what you want to do, but you need to know those numbers. So food, car payments, all of those type of things, take in consideration what is the most important to you. Getting wealthy is pretty cool. It is to have a bunch of money, but look at what you'll have to go through, and is it worth it? Are you shaving time off your life? All right, the next one is, should you borrow money? And I guess this is what people do all the time. They're in debt to credit cards. They're in debt. The first thing that you do when you get out of high school is you have these college people, bringing you in to get into $100,000 debt for a job that might not even be secure in the future. Most likely won't, through automation and the technological advances that people are making. And it's ridiculous. But even if it wasn't, should you borrow money? People need to understand that you're not only just going to survive, in some ways, you're backwards. And the debt for college students is unforgivable. You don't file bankruptcy. You can't. They're working, I hear, on some stuff about it. But yeah, you're in debt for that for the rest of your life. And that's something that's going to be stuck on you, and a decision you'll have to make from your borrowing. Should you or should you not borrow money? I think that there is definitely some merit. If you're not paying, this is hard to get your head wrapped around, I'd imagine. But if you're not in debt, like using debt as leverage, right? If you're not buying a bunch of things and staying in the game of money, you're paying somebody else's debt. Right? So I know it's kind of hard to explain, but people utilize the monetary system. A lot of rich investors, debt is actually how they keep on track. When you borrow money, you don't have to pay taxes on borrowed money, right? The money you earn, you do have to pay taxes. So a lot of smart people keep borrowing money so they never have to pay taxes, and then they have other people go and work a 9-to-5 job to pay off the debt that they just accrued. Does that make sense? So they pull out a loan for a house, they rent it to you, you're paying the mortgage while they're just sitting there as the home appreciates, and they're making the money off this thing. And they can borrow money, not have to off the equity off the house, and not have to pay taxes, because guess what? It was a loan until they actually make. I know it's crazy. So should you borrow money or not? It's a hard situation. I think if you don't have anything to back it up, if you don't know it's for certain, I don't think you should borrow money. And a lot of people should look at what's the interest rates. Do you guys know that you're not going to thrive because most people who loan you money, why would somebody loan you money? So they can make money, right? It's very profitable for banks to loan people money, for credit card companies to loan you money so they can charge you all the interest. Look at the interest rates. Educate yourself whether I should buy a home or not. All of the principles and things like that. Where's all the top dollar of your money going? I'll give you guys for example, like you get a 30-year fixed loan, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but let's just say you bought a house for $100,000 to make it simple. That's probably even unheard of right now in the United States. But by the time you end up paying off that house, it would actually be sometimes, depending on the interest rates and all that, almost double, if not more than double. It's ridiculous. So you end up, what you think is $100,000, you're actually spending $250,000. So if you saved up the money, the cash to put a larger down payment, or you had full cash to buy something, say a car or something like that, a phone, looking at all the interest that they charge you, if you just flat out just did without, saved up that money and just bought it cash, you're actually literally saving more money in regards. So should you borrow money? Should you not? That's like a subject matter that can go on and on and on. But if you want to survive, keep borrowing money. If you want to thrive, borrow money, but do it on a larger scale and understand how it works. And to finish with this one, banks hate money. You heard me right. Banks hate money. As soon as you put that money in the bank, it's a liability. They'll have to pay taxes. They need to loan it out as soon as possible. Get rid of it. Cash is trash. I'll leave that one to let your head just spin completely off your shoulders. Look into it. Do yourself a favor. All right, health and the food you eat. I think I already covered that one. But yeah, there's I think that what I didn't cover on there is that how people spend their money and how they don't thrive. They're just surviving, both health for financial health and physical health, because they don't want to put in the work to actually make their own food. And what we have is a bunch of people living off junk food and things like that, ruining their bodies, ruining their pocketbook. And it's ridiculous. And then we also go to the grocery store and we purchase stuff that's cheap. When we think about from surviving to thriving, most people want everything cheap. The food doesn't even taste that good. The food has no nutrient value. It's cheap. All the things that you purchase from Walmart, right? Even some things at Costco and stuff like that, Sam's Club, I guess they have some good goods, but you go in there and you buy yourself a plastic ladle from like Walmart, something snaps in half, you buy it again. It's just a bunch of cheap stuff that we invest our money in. And it's ridiculous. So let's move forward on living with surplus. Now, this is the area that I look at in my life where I talked about emergency funds and things like that. And I think that living in surplus, that we have all this cheap stuff, as we talked about, a lot of people aren't used to that. And I think if a financial crash happens, a correction in the economy, and with the supply chain disruptions and everything, people don't know what to do with themselves. When you do without, things taste a lot better. For me, I love sushi, but I don't abuse it. What I do is I'll go like once a month or something, or once every other month. And when I have it, it's like the best thing that's ever happened. Just the flavors in my mouth are bursting. It's like one of my favorite things to do. But doing without it, and then finally getting it, eating eggs and for lunches, right, and breakfast, like hard-boiled eggs, and drinking smoothies. I've been drinking the same plant-based protein powder for probably about, I don't even know, we're probably almost going on a decade now. But I save a lot of money. But what happened is I ended up getting a bunch of surplus of both money and goods. I have a pantry completely stocked. I've got freezers completely stocked of some of the best meat on the planet, frozen vegetables. I've got all kinds of spices and things together to make these wonderful, wonderful meals. I have a surplus. I also have a surplus of money where, for those of you who follow me, I had like a year and a half of advance of money saved up, for investing and things like that if I so choose to. But I have emergency funds that if something happened bad to me, my family could live for probably about a year and a half without me doing a damn thing, without lifting a finger. A surplus of cash. Well, what's happened by having that, my energy, my nervousness, my stress is a lot lower because I know that I have that in those reserves, that surplus for food. There's a big old scare of a food shortage. Well, I got plenty of food for a good amount of months, right? I'm probably like 3, 4, 5 months worth of food. If I sparingly ate it, I'm good. So I'm concerned. It's not like I'm sitting here just going, no. But money, same thing. If I had to pay my rent and all that and I wasn't able to work, I could actually bring my overhead down a lot lower. But my stress level, my happiness, and then surplus, whatever I add onto that thing, is just that much more extra. And I call this the fun money. And this is where the year like 2020 will come and I'll know I've got, say I want to blow $20,000. I can say, well, I've saved all this. I've got money for investment. I have my children, which one of my children is going to turn 16 years old this year. I can take that money and I can go travel and do things like for however, I can spend as much or as little as I want. I have a surplus of money. And I got to tell you guys, that's what makes life, moving from surviving to thriving, really, really good. I did also an experiment with myself, which is a self-achievement. Can I make enough money in a year in advance? So it was 2020 where I worked my butt off and made all of the money I need for 2021. Basically my rent, my food, my phone, gas, everything. I've monitored my spending. I have a budget set up. And I says if I stay around this amount of money for every month, I actually wouldn't have to work for a year if I wanted to. It'd be foolish because that's money I could use for backup or for investing or something like that. But just the fact that I was able to do that And then if once you get these under a notch on your belt, right, a badge or an accomplishment, an award, which I guess your reward is invisible. You just have it. You have abundance. It makes you feel empowered. And then you look and go, what else could I do? So that's like one of the biggest reasons I'm here blabbering, beating my gums off of like, dude, there's a lot of things possible for people if they just apply themselves correctly. And maybe they just need a little direction. All right. And speaking of that, you need to have little knowledge about how things work. So we spoke about money, right? We spoke, how does money work? How does lending happen? Why do people lend? Why is it so profitable and lucrative? Because they're making money off of you. So you want to know about how much money's being printed, right? The gold standard, they removed the gold, the value of money has no gold behind it anymore since the 1970s. All of these things, understand get the knowledge of how all these things work. And then beyond money, let's just look at our return on investment, such as things as gardening or raising animals, right? You get yourself, I don't know, let's make even numbers here. You get 5 hens and you get yourself a rooster. Those chickens are going to lay a bunch of eggs, guys. And you can pasture raise them free. They could eat bugs. You don't even have to feed them. You can let them even run wild, given they're in the right situation. What's going to happen is they're going to reproduce and give you more chickens. Each one of those 5 could give you like 10 chickens. Now you're multiplying your money and your goods, just like plants. You have a tomato, and you eat all the rest of the tomatoes, but you save one. Off that one seed, you have now probably somewhere in the vicinity of about 300 seeds. Right? Off those 300 seeds, you're going to do the math times, it just keeps proliferating. That's moving from surviving to thriving. Understand the way nature works, the way things reproduce perpetually. In most cases, without you having to do anything. Trees is a wonderful example. All the little suckers that will come off, if their root system goes down and given the right environment, you need to do zero fertilizer, zero water, zero pruning, zero pesticides, zero, and in reverse, this thing just keeps giving you macadamia nuts or papayas or whatever it is that you're eating. And it gives you firewood and it gives fodder for your plants. It's just endless. We need to understand about inflation. I think a lot of people don't understand inflation. They get a raise, say from, $16 an hour to $20 an hour, right? I'm making $20. Look at that. I got a $4 an hour raise. You're still behind, buddy. You're still behind. The price of rent. Right now in 2020, in January, what used to be, say, $1,200 a month for rent in, say, Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, whatever. I follow a lot of financial people, real estate investors. Their rents rose from $1,200 to about $1,800 to $2,000 a month. The inflation went up. Your food went up. The gas went up. Electricity, clothes, everything has gone up. And you're wondering about this percentage of this $4 an hour you're making. You're just barely flatlining still, or in most cases for people, you're in the poverty line, even though you've never made. You're looking at $20 an hour, but you look at the cost of what the income to debt ratio is for your rent and for your mortgage. You're way behind, and as inflation rises, people don't understand. They're getting laid back, pushed down, and chained further and further and further without even realizing. Get the knowledge, know how things work so you can get out of that and start thriving. So in the end here, guys, nothing is absolute, nothing is for certain. Will we have a crash? I have no idea. Do the so-called experts know if we're going to have a crash? They have no idea either. We have many of them saying that things are going to crash, a lot of them saying we're going to have a boom. What do we do? What do we do with these kind of things? What do we know for certain to move from surviving to thriving? Do we know that there would be another, like an ice storm that would come in like we had in 2020 in Texas? Could we have a giant earthquake? Just had an earthquake here the other day where I live in the Anza Borrego deserts out there. I live in San Diego by the coast. But we can have tornadoes. We can have many things. We can go to war. Other countries could fight against each other. Someone could detonate a nuclear. There's so many horrible things. Asteroids could hit the earth. So many things that are uncertain. So how do we hedge? How do we combat? What do we do to move from surviving to thriving? Is accept these things into our lives and implement things that we can, do the best that we can, instead of sitting there with your hand out for the government to bail you out of stuff or anybody else doing what you're told, following the herd of the mentality of the rat race. And society, science, spirituality, all these things that people say, this is the way things are. Think for yourself. Develop your own ways of living your life. And develop those things into things that actually work. And ask yourself, look around you at all the people and let me know if this society is working. If this whole system is so perfect, then why do we have so many unhappy people, broke people, unhealthy people? It's completely backwards. The majority of people, in my mind's eye, are surviving. They're not thriving. We are here on this show. I am here to help in any way I can to show you guys, maybe I'm not a millionaire, but I'm a thousandaire, and I am happy, I am healthy, I have the capacity in my mind to create things, to do such things as this show, to move about my life freely and in the manner which I please, to gain more freedom, and that's what I want for you guys as well. All right, guys, that's the show. I want to thank you guys, each and every one of you, for taking the time out and being here today. And if you guys can, give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. If you did give me a thumbs down, please let me know why. I love to hear all your guys' opinions, but it really helps me out. That's all I'm asking, is if you guys like and share, comment on the show. It helps the algorithms for this show to get known. That's what's going to keep the lights on around here. So guys, there's an email down below in the description. If you guys want to make any comments, just say hello, give any suggestions. And as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. And human up, my friends.